Buddy Johnny here. I wanted to make a video about ME and CFS flare-ups. I just got done with one of the worst flare-ups I've had in 4 or 5 years. It was pretty severe. It lasted quite a while. It was about a month. And I feel like the ME and CFS community doesn't talk about flare-ups quite as much as maybe other components of the illness. And I wanted people who may not understand what a flare-up is to kind of get a better grasp. And I'd like to hear what works for you guys, and I'm going to go over what's worked for me most of the time. It didn't this last time, so what I'm going to mention here is not a gold standard, but most of the time these things do work for me during and before a flare-up. Before I get started, I want people to know that a flare-up is a lot of symptoms rushing back, sometimes all at once, and in increased severity. I don't want people to think that people with ME and CFS are just fine in between flare-ups. That is not the case. Flare-ups are even more severe on top of an already debilitating illness. So I don't want to spread the misconception that everyone's fine in between flare-ups, and that's just really not the case, unfortunately. People deal with a very debilitating illness, and then flare-ups is just an increased intensity and consistency of that illness. So some of the things that work for me, and I just jotted a few down. There's a million different things you can do, but my go-to routine are these few things that I jotted down. Number one is I acknowledge that I'm about to have a flare-up. There's usually indicators for me that indicate I'm about to go into a flare-up. For me personally, it's IBS issues, swollen glands, and cognitive decline. And if I acknowledge it early and get on top of it early and start adapting and making changes to prepare for it, I've noticed that the duration and severity are a lot less. A lot of people with ME and CFS, regardless of what we're doing, sometimes we'll have an indicator and we'll ignore it because we're either happy being able to do something, or we have to do certain things because we only have a small amount of time that we're not completely bedridden. And I do understand there's some people this won't apply to at all, that you're completely bedridden and you're in a constant flare-up. And I feel really bad for people like that because I've been there for small amounts of time, and it's terrible, and I hope that you guys feel better soon. But for people who are moderately, borderlining severe ME, where you're able to do certain tasks, sometimes we're happy being able to do certain things, and we get carried away. So acknowledging is very important. The next thing is put yourself in a position to heal. I know it's a pretty broad thing to say. It's different for everybody else. For me, I've noticed it's very helpful to cut out any stressor that I can cut out. Some things you just can't change in your life, and you have to deal with certain stresses. I know you can't change those things, but the things that you can change them, especially during a flare-up. The next thing is to stay calm and stay positive. Sometimes a flare-up is so severe and the duration is so long, you start to get scared, you start to get anxiety, you start to get negative, you think it's never going to end. And sadly and unfortunately for some people, it doesn't. That's just the reality of this illness. Some people get such a bad flare-up and they never recover. That's the sad, scary, and unfortunate truth of this. But most of the time, you go back to being how you were before, which is still ill and still debilitated, but the severity is slightly less after the flare-up. So stay positive and try to find a routine of things that works for you. I'm very curious, by the way, to hear what works for you guys out there. I'm really interested in reading the comments in this video to see what you guys do and don't do during flare-ups. The next thing is find something to do that you enjoy, that you are capable of doing without expending a lot of energy. And I know that, again, that's already what we live through every day, right? I mean, that's just part of having ME and CFS is that. But obviously, this is an extra step. Like for me, I binge watch Netflix. I don't move. I drink a lot of fluids. And I try to enjoy as much as I can, because then I kind of go into what I just spoke about, is getting a little bit negative and getting down on yourself and going, when is this going to end? All those negative thoughts. That's just not not a good thing. And it's easier said than done, and I know that. I try to I try very hard to stick to my own advice here too. And like I may have said, this doesn't always work. I had a flare up for a month, and none of this helped me at all. But most of the time it does. So that's why I wanted to share it and also exchange ideas with you guys on here. The last thing here that I listed is eating even better than you should already be eating with an illness like this. Stay away from sugars, anything inflammatory. I feel like however the gut goes is how we go. And that goes to anybody who's healthy or with most illnesses. You got to give your body a chance to recuperate. And just because you're not seeing your body recuperate right away, it doesn't mean it's not. Flare-ups can be long and tedious, difficult, debilitating. Keep doing things that are good for you. Supplementation works. Anything that your go-to things that make you feel better, stick to those. And even if you don't see results right away, just stick to it. There's a lot of other things that you can do and that I do during flare-ups, but I want to keep the video somewhat short. But I am very curious to hear what you guys do and kind of spread the word about flare-ups so maybe a loved one can see this and understand that maybe you were able to make dinner the day before. This day you can't. And this is part of the roller coaster ride of ME and CFS. Sometimes we can do things, sometimes we can't. We're not picking and choosing. That has nothing to do with it. It's just symptoms, they come and they go. That's the crazy thing about this illness. They never all go away, but sometimes you have 3 symptoms, sometimes you have 10, sometimes you have 3, 1, 4. It just changes, and it changes in severity. So imagine trying to plan your life that way. It's impossible. You can't commit to things, and you don't know what's going to happen next. So this is just a few things that I do, which is my routine, and I'd like to hear your routine. So I hope you guys are feeling okay. Until next time, take care.